Lamar Wilkerson, one of the top players in the transfer portal, picks Indiana over Auburn and Kentucky, and for obvious reasons.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com to join today. Well, the NBA or the football portal is open for college football, right? It's now Wednesday, April 16th. The transfer portal is open. It's open for the next 10 days, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, where the Indiana Hoosiers could be going with Curt Cignetti and some of the needs that they're going to need in this portal window. Plus, Indiana basketball still needs a big man. I think we've got a starting four. Well, we need a starting five. We've got 4 out of 5. We'll talk about who that could be in just a little bit, but still reacting to the news we got yesterday that Lamar Wilkerson, the best guard in the portal, one of the best players in the portal, in my opinion, has committed to play for DeVries and the Indiana Hoosiers. And look, I think it's for obvious reasons. I think he picked Indiana over, well, I know that he picked Indiana over Auburn, Ole Miss, and Kentucky. And we know that going into this recruiting process, he wanted to take his visits. He wanted to take all 4 visits. He wanted to have all the intel, all the information, and then make an educated decision. Got to respect that, right? You got to understand where he was coming from. Okay, cool. Indiana got the first. Indiana got the first visit. And we tell you all the time on this particular show how getting the first visit or the last visit is always the most important. If you get the first visit, and this goes for transfer portal or for high school recruiting, you get that first visit, you set the standard, right? You set the standard, you tell them how it's going to be, and every other visit they take, whether they do it consciously or not, will be comparing to what they did at your place. Well, then he took a visit to Kentucky, and he liked it pretty well. And he liked both places so much, he told Auburn and Ole Miss, "Yeah, I'm good. I don't need to see you guys. Appreciate the offer, though." Turns out he liked Indiana so much, he didn't want to see those other places, and he did not want to go to Kentucky. He picks Indiana. He will be your starting shooting guard this coming winter and spring at Indiana for 2025 and 2026. And if you haven't seen his interview with the Field of 68 podcast, I recommend that you go and check that out once you're done here, because it's a really, really good interview. And some of the quotes that he laid out there about why he chose Indiana are incredible. He wanted to be flat out, plain and simple. He wanted to be the guy at Indiana. He wants to bring Indiana basketball back to relevancy, back to where it needs to be. He understands, and he mentioned it in the interview, how he understands that Indiana hasn't been where they wanted to be. We have not been where we need to be in quite some time. And he said, I want to bring Hoosier basketball back, and I want to be the guy at Indiana. In comparison to, and these are his words, to be just another guy to play at Kentucky, to just be another guard that goes through Lexington. How about that? Says, I don't want to be just another guy. I want to be the guy. And he will be. He will be beloved here at Indiana. Will they have liked him in Lexington? Yeah, probably. You wouldn't know it by how the fans are reacting, since he chose Indiana over Kentucky. Apparently, all he did was just chase the dollar sign and chase the money and choose a poverty program in one of the top 10 most historical places in college basketball history. But what do we know here in Bloomington? All he did was chase the money, right? He chooses Indiana because it's where he wanted to be. It's obvious. He wanted to be in Bloomington. He wanted to play for Coach DeVries, who, by the way, the day that Wilkerson commits to Indiana, flew out to see him the day that he decided to commit. Before he had made a decision, head coach DeVries hopped on a plane and flew out to see him one more time. He took the extra step. He went the extra mile, literally, And he went to see the guy that he wanted to show, hey, we want you in Bloomington. We need you in Bloomington, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to get you there. Did Indiana pay for it? Absolutely. But it's more than just an NIL evaluation. We have to be serious and have a grown-up conversation here for just a second and understand that it's bigger and more than just a dollar sign. It's a part of it. I'm not denying that whatsoever, but it was bigger than that. And the quotes from Lamar Wilkerson himself tell you that. And so now Indiana brings in what I think is the best guard in the portal and one of the best players in the portal. He averages over 20 points a game. He shoots it at 44% from three a year ago, 40% for his career, and he steps in immediately and is your starting two guard. He's your starting two immediately, and he's the best player on the floor. And you can't sit here and tell me other fans want to do this, and this is just the culture that we're in nowadays. If he doesn't pick your school, he's terrible, he's worthless, we didn't want him anyway. But if he picks your program, he was going to be godsend, he was going to be the next Hall of Famer, he was going to be the next great at your program. Kentucky fans got to get over it, man. And it's really ironic when you think about it. It's ironic that Kentucky fans, Kentucky is complaining about somebody spending money to get a player. Are we serious right now? Are we being real that Kentucky and Lexington, they are the ones complaining about somebody spending a lot of money for a college basketball player? Come on now. Talk about calling the kettle black. Let's take a step back and kind of understand what's going on here. His comments clearly state that Lamar Wilkerson wanted it more than just the money. Indiana is where he wanted to be. And he understands that he's stepping into a roster that's not complete yet, but is slowly getting very, very good. And we're going to talk about that coming up in just a few moments, how Indiana still needs a big guy and somebody that I think they could be trying to get here very, very soon. But Indiana just had a major victory here. DeVries needs to be celebrating. I hope he had a glass of bourbon or a glass of wine or went and had a steak dinner last night, because he earned it. He deserves it. And him and his new staff that is still coming together, they very well deserved what they got in a good way. This was a major victory over Auburn and Bruce Pearl, over Mark Pope in Kentucky, a team that just went to the Final Four in Auburn, a team that just went to the Sweet 16 in Kentucky, and you're a team in Indiana that didn't even make the tournament last year. But that didn't matter to Lamar Wilkerson. It hasn't mattered to Connor Enright. Hasn't mattered to Tucker DeVries. Hasn't mattered to Reed Bailey. Hasn't mattered to Trent Sisley, your high school commit, your top 75 player who committed to Indiana and not a head coach. Hasn't mattered to those guys because they want to step into the Hoosier State, into Bloomington, and bring Indiana basketball back. And you can do that with a top 15 scorer from a year ago, one of the best three-point shooters in the country, in Lamar Wilkerson, who chose Indiana for obvious reasons over the likes of Auburn, Ole Miss, and Kentucky. He wants to be the guy, and he absolutely will be. And Indiana fans are going to love this kid. He's a really good player, seems like a really good dude, and we're happy to have him here in Indiana. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we still need a big guy, though, right? We feel like we've got a starting four: point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward. But who's going to lock down the paint? Who's going to be our rim protector? I have a name that we need to discuss. We'll talk about him coming up next right here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and they are here. And the FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting super easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. It's not that difficult. I've been in it for a while now, and it's very, very easy to get into. From three-pointers to steals and to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. And right now with the play-in games and then eventually the first round getting going this weekend, FanDuel is where you need to be to kind of crank up some of that entertainment, all right? So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com right now and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's at FanDuel.com. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here. Again, appreciate you making this your go-to spot, making it your first listen, your first watch, having it in your rotation. However you do it, we appreciate you. And man, we are having a lot of fun over here. When there's fun stuff to talk about, makes the show a lot more fun, right? And hopefully you're getting that vibe as well. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, or I saw people say they listen on Pandora, awesome. That's fantastic. However you listen to the audio version of this podcast, I really do appreciate you doing that. And make sure that you've got your notifications turned on, that you're following us over there, that you have left us a 5-star review. All of those things help us out tremendously. And if you had your notifications on, you saw that we did a breaking reaction video yesterday, late yesterday afternoon, almost yesterday evening, about Lamar Wilkerson. So if you missed that, go back and check it out. But if you had your notifications on, you would have been able to catch that as soon as it went live. So be sure you do all that. Really appreciate you listening. And then for those of you on YouTube, right, watching the video version, you know the drill. Hit that thumbs up and the subscribe button. Just 2. That's all you got to do. Thumbs up and subscribe. That way you tell me you're liking the content, you want more, and you're going to be notified every time we post a new episode. And then comment your thoughts down below. Lamar Wilkerson, he's a new Indiana Hoosier. Tell me your thoughts on him and where this roster stands right now for you. That's what we're talking about next here on the show, is the 4 that we have, technically 5, but I think you have your starting first 4 and you need one more. So let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments. All right, so we continue on. Ooh, peach. It's a peach water that I just took a sip of, and I don't know if I'm a fan of that, but that's okay. We roll on here on Locked On Hoosiers. And now that you pick up Lamar Wilkerson, you feel like you have your starting first 4. You have Connor Enright, the DePaul transfer, as your point guard, who isn't going to blow you away scoring, but makes the right decisions, orchestrates the offense, and is a pass-first guard. Okay, cool. Perfect example for what you want in your point guard. Played for Darren DeVries when they were at Drake, so you understand, and both of them are on the same page. Got it. Awesome. Then you bring in Lamar Wilkerson, the Sam Houston transfer, 20 points per game, 44% three-point shooter. The kid can flat out ball. He is your go-to guy. He is your bucket getter. There's a chance, depending on how this offense wants to orchestrate itself, there's a chance that Wilkerson brings the ball up the floor more than Connor Enright does. And I would think, just given what we've seen on film from these guys, that either one of them would have permission. It's not going to be one of those things where whoever grabs the rebound, okay, where's Enright? Where is he? Where's Connor? I don't think that's the case. I think you could give it to either one, and you trust both of them to pick up the offense and run it from whatever side of the floor they're on, wherever the play might start, right? And so I think both of them would have that green light. So you've got him, Lamar Wilkerson, as your starting shooting guard. Then you feel like Tucker DeVries, who was your best three-point shooter until Wilkerson steps in. Not a bad problem to have. Tucker DeVries steps in and is without a doubt your starting 3. He's your tall guy. He's a stretch 3, can be a big guard. He can be a smaller forward. He can kind of do it all. Get a bucket, grab a rebound, run the floor, shoot the 3. He can do it all, and he can defend. That's a big part that we haven't talked a whole lot about with Tucker DeVries, is plays to his size very well. And so I think he is a perfect 3. He's going to start for you. He only played 8 games a year ago at West Virginia, but was balling out when he did. He will be your starting 3. And then there's Reed Bailey, right? The guy who transfers in from Davidson, 6'10". He can shoot it as well. Don't sleep on Reed Bailey's shooting ability, but he's going to be your first big guy in the front court for the Hoosiers. Plays to his size, will run the floor, grabs a rebound. He's a ball hawk down there, and somebody that Indiana can dump it down to and kind of let him go and do his thing, right? I put him on the same category type of player, don't hate me when I say this, as a Malik Reneau-esque. I think he's better than Malik. I think he will have better footwork. I think he won't foul as much. I think he's better offensively, has better touch, better shooter, but that type of 4 that you just give the ball to and let him go to work. Then you're looking for a starting center, because it ain't going to be Trent Sisley. We love that kid, but it ain't going to be him, right? You're going to be your backup guard somewhere coming off the bench as a freshman, but you need a big guy. You need somebody to lock down the paint. You need somebody who can help you defend all these bigs that you're going to see in the Big Ten. And somebody that Indiana offered a couple of days ago that I wanted to mention, because I don't think we have yet here on the show, He's a 7-footer from the JUCO ranks. Okay, from the JUCO ranks, Emeka Opurum. All right, Emeka Opurum, 7 feet tall, defensive player of the year in his conference at JUCO. He has been offered by Indiana, and the Hoosiers seem to be very, very good in with this recruitment. Emeka Opurum from Butler Community College is 7 feet tall and someone that the Hoosiers could absolutely use. Okay, here's some of the numbers that he is averaging or did average this past year: 9.5 points a game, 8 rebounds per game, shot it at about 67% from the floor, so not too bad. And all of those coming from the paint in the 2-point area. He does not step out and shoot very often. But the thing that gets you, or should get you excited, gets me excited anyway, is the defensive number. Average 2.5 blocks per game in his time in JUCO. 2.5 blocks per game. Do you understand how dumb that is? How ridiculously good that is? 2.5 blocks a game is not normal. And yeah, he's 7 feet tall, and he's probably the tallest one playing JUCO ball, but he plays his size fairly well. Watched some film on him last night and this morning before hitting record, and he has a lot of growing up to do in terms of his style of play, his body size, things like that for Big Ten basketball, Power 5 basketball. But just to be a 7-footer, man, he plays very smart basketball. He's always in the right spot. They throw a bunch of lobs to him. That's what they did at his JUCO school. They threw a bunch of lobs to him. Basically, he just kind of camps out on the baseline or the low block. And then when the guard gets around his defender, the big pulls over. Boom. There's Emeka. 7-footer. Throw it to him and let him go to work. Either throw it to his chest. He pulls up and slams it down, lays it in. They throw him the lob. It's pretty simple offense down there. And that's what you did, or that's what you see rather, with this 7-footer with Emeka Opurum. And I think that's what Indiana could do with him in the Big Ten. I just think he's going to have to get a little bit, his skill set's going to have to broaden just a little bit. And I think he needs to put on a little bit of size. His footwork is iffy, not a whole lot of dump it down low, kind of like an Umar Ballo. Not going to see a whole lot of that yet. I think he could, but he was just a freshman last year, so he's got a lot of years remaining. And if you can get him in and start to develop him and work on him, I think he could be your future center at Bloomington for quite some time, or wherever he goes. I think he is a developmental piece, possible starter. Just depends on how it goes. And I think those early games in non-conference play, whether it's here or somewhere else, those would be a very early sign of what he could be for you in the future. But if he puts on another 15 pounds, if you are able to put just a few tools in his belt, right? Just a couple of moves, the turnarounds, the cut baselines, just being able to finish at the rim. He's 7 feet tall. It's not all that difficult, but guess what? There's other 7-footers in the Big Ten. So you have to find a way to overcome that. And I don't know if he's ever had to as a 7-footer now playing JUCO ball. So he's an option. He's a possibility. Indiana has offered him. I believe he's on a visit to Auburn this week as well. So wouldn't that be nice to get another recruit that they wanted and just bring him to Bloomington instead? He's somebody who could be very, very good. He's just young and he's raw, but he could be a potential starter at your 5 spot. And even if you get him, if you're Indiana, you still need another one. That's where we are right now. You're waiting to get your starting 5, your starting big man, your starting center, but you still need depth. The only depth piece, and I put that in quotations, that you have is Trent Sisley, who is going to be a true freshman as a top 75 recruit in high school who steps into college basketball for the very first time. You need a little bit more than that, believe it or not. And I think that's what Indiana's doing. We've talked about guys like Overton, the guard from Texas Tech. We've talked about Josiah Miles, Duke Miles, those guys we had on the episode yesterday. That's why the Hoosiers are going after them. Tons of guards, yes, but you still need some size. And Indiana's got to find a way to get some of those guys on campus, get them committed, and fill this roster. But I think Emeka Opurum could be one who possibly could be a starting center this year. Or if you go and do get a true starting center and this guy, and you develop him and let him play 15, 18, 20 minutes a game, dude, he could be he could be stupid good when he's a little bit older and has, and I say mature, not mentally, I don't know, I guess, just physically, and his basketball IQ and just the skill set that he has. You let him marinate for a year in the Big Ten, bro, watch out. Could be really, really good. Emeka Opurum, the 7-footer down in JUCO. Keep an eye on him. Indiana's made an offer and trying to get him here to Bloomington. All right, coming up on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's a big day. Today's a big day as the football transfer portal has opened. Now it's time for Curt Cignetti and his staff to get to work, making up some ground. We'll talk about where they could go in the spring portal window. Coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. Can't stress enough how much fun we're having, and I hope you're enjoying this as well. And there's so much content out there right now for Indiana. We're trying to cover it all the best that we can. So if you're on audio, YouTube, you follow us on X at Locked On Hoosiers. Be sure you're getting with our polls that we post on YouTube every day, our reels that we're posting, or shorts, whatever they're called. Be sure you're interacting with those. We post a lot of them, and they're fun. They're a lot of fun and getting good engagement. So be sure, again, you're commenting down below. It's the best way that you can engage with us and helps the show grow a ton. So thank you for doing that. And so I mentioned today, if you're watching this as it comes out on April 16th, 2025, it is the spring football portal window. It's open. It is officially open once again. And there's going to be a flurry of names that enter that transfer portal like we see every single season. We've already seen thousands enter for the football portal back in the winter. You've seen thousands of players enter for the basketball portal window, and I expect a few more thousand to enter in the spring football portal window here for the next 10 days or so. And that's what it is. It's from now to April 26th. And the question, right, for Indiana, for the football side is, okay, well, what exactly do we need, right? Because you feel like you got a good haul in the December portal window. You got a starting quarterback. You bring in some starting offensive linemen. You thought you had your starting slot receiver from Michigan before he got hurt, and that's where we'll go in just a second. You feel like you brought in some good defensive depth, right? And so the question is, all right, well, where do we go? Well, I think slot receiver is the obvious one because you felt like you had him, right? Tyler Morris, the Michigan transfer, he was, it's no secret at this point, he was going to be your starting slot guy. And you obviously have Surratt and Cooper. They play on the outside. You were going to have Tyler Morris in there. Plus you have Holden Stage, your starting tight end, what we think, from Tennessee. Boom. You felt like you were fine. And at that point it was, all right, cool. Let's just go get some depth pieces. We'll be good to go. Well, not anymore. You got to go get somebody to fill the spot of Tyler Morris. And you still have all those names that I just talked about. So you're not in a bad spot. You really just need one, maybe two, just to make sure you've got some depth and enough to get you through in the Big Ten this upcoming season. But then you start to look, it's like, okay, what else do you need offensively? What else could you use on the offensive side of the football, if anything? You got your guys on the O-line, right? Pat Coogan is somebody that is just blowing everybody away in the spring. 2 more Power 4 guys as well, but you can never have enough. And that's kind of where I look at this thing on offense is you can never have enough on the offensive line. If there's a starting caliber player, doesn't have to be a starter, but just a starting caliber guy who enters the portal on the offensive line, you have to make the call. Everybody else will too, but you got to make the call and see if you can bring him in here and say, hey, we're going to let you take a run at this thing. We're going to let you be a part of this. We're going to let you have a shot at starting on the O-line. And if you don't, you're still going to get significant snaps. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think at this point, if you enter the portal in the spring as an offensive lineman, that's kind of the expectation, is it not? Because you're hoping a place like Indiana at this point has their starting offensive line and things are pretty solidified, which I think it is. You kind of have the expectation of, well, I may not start somewhere, but I can go and be an impact, right? I could be a role player as a backup guard or a backup tackle or whatever the case may be. I think that's where Indiana goes here. Then defensively, my main focus is at the linebacker spot. You have Aiden Fisher. You bring the All-American back. That's awesome, right? That's fantastic. but you've got to get somebody else. There's got to play two. You got him on one side. Who do you get on the other? Indiana needs to get a starting linebacker in the transfer portal. Where will he come from? Couldn't tell you. The portal just opened. We're going to have some names and they're going to start flying through. I promise. You can get on there and just hit refresh and there'll be new names every minute that you do on the transfer portal for football this spring. But I think linebacker is probably the most important one on the defensive side of the football because you still have Kamara, who's going to be moving to that stud spot. You still have dudes on the defensive line. I think you're going to be fine there. You can maybe get some there, but the linebacker position is one that you have to get. You need a starting linebacker from the transfer portal. And if you do, I think you're going to be fine. But if you notice there's a trend here, that's really the only true starting. Well, I guess you have one on defense and you have one on offense, a starting linebacker and a starting slot receiver. Everything else, everything that you could get in the portal this spring for Curt Cignetti, it's just depth. It's just help. It's just assistance. You understand how big of a blessing that is? Do you understand how big of a deal that is that you're not scrambling here in April to fill your roster and think, oh God, what are we going to do? We still need 2 offensive linemen. We need a couple safeties. I don't know if we have any D linemen left. We have running back issues. We don't have a quarterback. What are we going to do? Nope. We're not there. We're not worried about that. You need 2 starters, one on defense, one on offense. Everything else is gravy. Everything else is purely help to you. That's a good spot to be if you're Indiana. Now, of course, the portal giveth and the portal taketh. You'll have some guys leave and you may have to replace those, and that'll probably be depth. I don't expect any big names to leave Indiana right now. I haven't heard anything. I guess there's always the chance, but I don't see it happening. So you're in a really good spot for Indiana. And the portal, it's open today. You need a linebacker, you need a receiver, and you need some depth help around the roster. But Hoosiers are in a really good spot. And if you can pick up a couple big names, you're feeling really good going into the summer and even better going into the fall. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers, man. Thank you so much for being here again. I can't express how much I enjoy you being here and appreciate you being here. If you're listening on audio, whatever platform you're on, follow us, turn on those notifications, send it to everybody you know. Give it to people at work, your family, your friends, people at church. I don't care. Make them listen. Have them listen to this. If they're an Indiana fan, they need to be here with Locked On Hoosiers. And for those of you on YouTube, like the video. Comment your thoughts down below on Wilkerson, on a big man, on the football portal. What do the Hoosiers need in your mind? What do you think Indiana needs to get for the football transfer portal? Let me know in the YouTube comments. And then if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Okay. We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe. I'll talk to you later.